Good evening and welcome to the first edition of Process Preparation and Performance. I'm Bill. I'm here with JR. We're going to talk to you about these three things today and kind of dive into the why of this podcast, how often we're planning on releasing something, who our guests might be, and then we're going to get into a little bit of content today about something that we call the program. JR, how you doing?
Great, other than you can't leave the house, but other than that, I'm doing good.
Well, that kind of takes us to the why of the podcast, right? So
yeah, exactly.
We got COVID-19 going on. Everybody's stuck in their house. Nobody can gather with 10 or more. Everybody's activities have kind of been stopped. So we thought we'd put together a podcast. So this is our first time. I've never done a podcast, JR. I think you dabbled in it a little bit, but how often do you think we should release one of these, JR?
I think our plan here is we're going to try to do at least one a week. And so we're going to try to get these out to everybody on Tuesdays if possible, depending on the popularity of it and the number of guests we get. We can obviously do more, if it takes off a little bit, and hopefully it will. But, once a week will definitely be good to start.
Yeah, I think that's a good timeline. Kind of picking this podcast title, Process, Preparation, and Performance, or what we call P3. And I know you mentioned guests, and we want guests, and we're going to have guests that are going to talk about all of those things, but we'll also get into the X's and O's of it. And, when it comes to guests, we want football coaches. We definitely want some baseball coaches. We want some volleyball coaches, some basketball coaches, track coaches, because at the end of the day, a coach is a coach, and we can all learn from somebody. We also thought it'd be a good idea to get some conversations with some of your support staff. One of the coaches we've talked to before, he has an entire moms group. We'd like to talk to him about that and maybe talk to some of those moms out there and what they're doing. Are you helping with uniforms? Are you helping stripe helmets? Are you just helping with meals? What all are they doing, and how can that really benefit your program? Maybe you have people that put your meals together. Maybe you have people that get your uniforms ready. Maybe you have people that help you stripe the field. Whatever that may be, let's find out what it is. Let's maybe give you the knowledge, and you guys can give us some of your feedback as to what you have, and we can help everybody improve. In addition to that, we're going to try and get some business owners. The guys that own the grocery stores, obviously right now, those guys are slammed with business. But I know one of the things that we've done in the past is we've had our grocery stores have had a huge Gatorade sale, and we would stock up with truckload beds of those things and find out if they're going to be able to do that this year. Find out, are the car wash guys going to be helped out? Are the restaurant guys going to be helped out? How can we help them during this time so that we can really take our football teams and provide back to the community that has helped us? And then, JR, we're going to talk a little bit with some content about what we call the program. That's
correct.
It's been several years in the making. Several years. You're like an Excel genius. You can write code for anything. So give us a background, give us a little idea about what the program really is.
So what the program was just kind of a thought process that maybe a computer can predict, what a team's going to do better than, a human can. The basic principle of it was kind of give us run pass with a little more accuracy than us just kind of guessing and doing it by feel and whatnot. And so for those that don't know, Bill was DC where we were before, and I was up there on the computer, and between the two of us, we tried to just basically figure out what would be the variables we needed for a computer to tell us what it thought was going to happen in game during a live contest and whatnot. And so, it works. There's no denying it. The thing got to about 80, a little bit more than 80% correct by the time we were done. It's still working on refining it a little bit, but it took about 3 years to get this thing to do what it was supposed to do. But it's good for sure.
Oh, 100%. So let's give a little background here. that started as the defensive side of the ball and how we can determine kind of what's coming. So we know in the industry, there's a lot of video management software programs. There's a lot of data that you can print out, and sometimes you can really kind of get what they call paralysis by analysis. I know when I had my defensive sheet, I would have so much stuff on there that the vast majority of the time, I'm not even looking at it. So what you and I kind of boiled it down to was, are they going to run or pass? Is it going wide or short? And by
Correct.
taking this program, we were able to really give our kids a huge advantage. I remember you telling me that you actually tried the program out on a college football game.
Yeah, so what I ended up doing, I had to trial run this thing on something. And so I started doing it on college football games just to see how good it would be. And it started out at about the 45 to 50% correct range, which isn't great. But then I started adding a couple things to it, such as where were they at on the field, which a lot of people know by field zones. And then started adding hash to it and some other predictors, such as what was the score? Was it +6, -6, +13, -13? And it got even as crazy as me going so far as to, which way is the wind blowing, with some of this stuff by the end of it. But what ended up happening is over time I realized you have to weight the categories to what's going to be more important for that game. And you get that through the past games that you got. If you got 2 or 3 films on them and the data you're getting says it's a little more easy to figure out what they're doing by down, then you just weight that category a little bit more. So once it started getting in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, it looked like something was going to be viable here to where we could use it. And then it was trying to determine, is it going to be useful in high school? Which obviously the first few times we did it, we didn't use it as much, but when it started to really say, well, this thing's right, then you just had to trust it. And so we kind of went through would it even work and how good would it be and all that process. But after a few years, we definitely got it figured out. And it definitely works.
Oh, it absolutely works. One of the things that we would do is collect games and games and games of historical data on a team, on an offense that we were breaking down. What gap are they running to? When are they running there? What down? What distance? What field zone? Is it their bench? Is it our bench? What is it? Does historical data really matter, though?
As far as the historical data, what I was doing with it was, it seems the cutoff point between what went on in the past and then what's going on in your game is roughly about 15 plays. So for the first 15 plays, it would rely on all that historical data to try to, basically tell us what we thought was going to happen. But then after 15 plays, I would have it discount that data and then just tell us what they were doing in that game. But if a situation came up, say it was a 1st and 5 or something that a team had and they hadn't had it in the game, where they were playing us, then it'd go back on a historical data and say, hey, the last time they had this, or, the last 10 times they had this is what they did. So it took a while to get it to be able to do stuff like that. And all the stuff I wrote into Excel, like it's not some user interface or, JavaScript or anything that I know how to write. It's just trying to figure out how to do it in Excel and then putting it out in a way that I could interpret it quick enough. It's quite the lengthy workbook, definitely pulling from a lot of different resources, but the more data you got on somebody, the more accurate this thing is. And then it kind of shows you the tendencies over time and how they're changing, during your game. And it's really just limited by how fast can you type and how much information can you put in there. Because you only got about yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, let's talk about that process for a second, right? So we would break down all the scout data, right? I would have something through the software we were using. You were putting it into your Excel program. We would take that process. We would look at some historical things, but as well as I do that we were pretty successful when this thing first came out, we were at a school coaching together, and we were doing really, really well. And we'd get there on Friday night, and it seemed like everybody was trying something new that maybe we hadn't seen, right? So then we're talking about our performance, and what I found from working with this program that you were typing in so fast and creating is that we are able to have a higher level of performance with our kids because we simply broke it down into a couple of categories as we were going. Most teams are going to script their first 6, 10, 12, 15, whatever it may be, depending on what level you're at, right? So we would take all of our preparation for what they're going to come back to. We would use all of the stuff that you put in there, and then we were able to turn that into a high level success rate and performance for our kids and our players. Because at the end of the day, whether somebody was trying something new on us or whether they were doing what they were comfortable with, it was still the same person calling the game. It was still the same person with their tendencies. And I really think that's where your program broke it down. It was us being able to tell the kids, listen, man, run past fielder boundary and put them in a spot that they were going to be successful. So tell us what the process looks like from we get into the game, they start coming out. What is it that you have to do up there in the press box?
The simplest explanation of it to where you start with is just down distance yard hash. You got to be able to enter that stuff into this thing pretty quick. And then really any data on top of that's just bonus, because it'll pool all those parameters and say, okay, well, today down is more important. And so as a result, this is what he's doing. This is what he's calling. If you can get other stuff in there, if you can get field boundary, wide, short, whatever you want to call it, formation, it all helps, because then it'll sort all that data on top of it too. But I think you hit on the right thing there, as far as once the kids kind of trusted that this would work as well, and that we kind of had something that nobody else did, then whatever you were calling, they knew there was a reason for it. Not everybody kind of understood the reason for it sometimes, but we knew what the reason was. And it's like, well, it's saying this and they're going to do this. And so then we're setting everything to that. But, you can make it as complicated or as simple as you want. But just being able to do what I was able to do with just kind of some of these stock columns, just the down distance, the yard, the hash, I could make more things off of that, because then based on the yard line, I could set something up where it'd say, well, it's now in this field zone. Or based on the hash, well, now it's away from their bench or to their bench, which I didn't have to enter any of that in. I was just using some formulas to where just say, okay, well, this is where they're at. So as a result, you're kind of doubling your data, even though you're not entering, any more information into it. But it's kind of fun that it worked. There for a while, I wasn't too sure if it'd be useful or not, but we definitely got the right parameters in there to where when the AAF was playing last spring, the team that Singletary was coaching, I ran it on all those teams, and it had him up to about 92% by the end of when they shut the thing down. The one that was the hardest to predict was Spurrier, just because he does some unconventional things. But I remember there was a game there towards the end of the spring, and they were inside their 10-yard line coming out, and it said pass 3 straight times, which if you know Spurrier over the years, that's what he's going to do. And it's exactly what he did. But, somebody's just watching, why isn't he running the ball? Well, he's a little different dude.
So, two football nerd geeks like us, we're sitting watching a game, and a lot of people have pen and paper and they're jotting stuff down and checking out formations, and you've got your computer out and you're like, well, let me see what you're going to do next.
It's once you got it, it's too easy not to mess with it and just go, I kind of know what you're going to do before you're going to do it.
I love the fact that at halftime we would come in and, you're walking out of the box, coming down to the locker room, and you're like, hey man, here's the report. On first down, they're to the field 78% of the time. Second down, it's boundary. Third down is this, blah, blah, blah. And guess what? First down, they've been 92% run to the field. Because what that does for me, if I'm calling it defensively or for any coach, I can feel comfortable now putting a sub in who's not my first string kid. I can feel comfortable putting him in because, like you said, I can put that kid opposite of where the ball is going, but still get him reps. I can put him where the ball is going to. Maybe I stunt him into the play, blitz him into the play, move the front. And all of a sudden, that kid is building more confidence because we have an idea where the ball is going, what's going to happen, and I can sub in and out freely and not have to worry about too much. You still have some worry, but I don't have to worry too much about, is this kid scared? Is the ball going to find him? What's going to happen?
Right.
And I really think that is the variable that you can't put a price tag on, right? You can't say, what's the value of this? Because you do that in week 1, week 2, week 3. By week 6, the kid who was maybe on a scale of 1 to 10, maybe he was a 5, he's now a 7. Okay, let's dive into one more thing about it. Let's talk a little bit about what we're going to come out with, and it's something ingenious that I think you came up with. I don't want you to give away the whole farm here, but give us an idea of what is the R code.
So the R code was, I was reading an article one time on a guy who did film breakdown for Belichick with the Patriots, and he's talking about the level of detail that they go to and why is this receiver 6 inches inside of where he just was. And it kind of got me to thinking, well, number one, what exactly are they doing? And then number two, did it really matter? And so the R code is just an abbreviation for what I called the receiver code. And once again, I just wrote it into Excel. But what I ended up doing was I took the field horizontally and divided it by sections to where if a receiver was in a certain place on that field, I would assign them a letter. And so if you had 3 receivers, you'd have obviously 3 different letters, which designated where they were at on the field. And then I started trying to figure out exactly if they're in these certain areas, are they running, are they passing, and try to add that into the program to help it kind of predict what was going on. But it's kind of like you said, you got to be able to type fast if you're going to add all this information. So the R code, it can help the program, but it can also stand alone as itself to where, if you figure out exactly where receivers are placed and if the dude's standing to the left of the ball and he's standing exactly on the hash, this is what is going to happen, then obviously it gives you even, even more of a predictive value there to where you can say, hey, by the way, they're about ready to throw it. So that took a while to figure that thing out. And then obviously to process the data, because talking about all these different film breakdown things, and most high schools have got one thing, they know what it is, that they load all their film to, and that thing cannot sort that data the way I needed it to do it. So it was a matter of me figuring out how to make, Excel tell me what I wanted it to tell me based on where these dudes were all lining up. But the R code's an interesting thing. It takes a while to put all the stuff in there. But like you were just saying, I kind of look at everything different now. Everything's numbers and letters to me. When somebody comes out in an offensive formation, it's not 2 right, 2 left, trips. No, it's ABCH, and the backfield's numbers, and it's just different. Right. But the R code was really good. It definitely probably helped us over the years with some things for sure.
Oh, 100%. I mean, if we go back to just the title of this podcast, right? Process, preparation, performance. The process by which we would scout and break something down as simple as the R code turned into how our kids prepared. Because, like you said, the other team might come out in, what you might call trips right, tray right, 2x1, 2x2, whatever that may be, right? And our kids would look at it and go, hey, coach, this week if number 2 is standing on the hash, what % run is that? And we might be able to say, you know what, this week if he's on the hash, it's 100% run. That turns into a higher that's a higher level of performance.
Correct.
That takes everything that this podcast is about and just wraps it into a nice little package, because we're able to put somebody in a position that they are way more successful than they would normally be. So we'll dive into it really deep next time. You think we'll be able to get it out in a week, next Tuesday? What do you think?
Yeah, probably somewhere around in there, depending on, how much quarantine we got going on here. But, probably within a week, if anybody's got any ideas on what to do, other than listening to the two of us go on about what we've done, shoot us an email. We can just get somebody on the phone. It'd be real easy to do that. We can record it as we're talking to them and whatnot. And then we'll just kind of take it from there, and hopefully people are interested in it.
Yeah, that's breakdownsportsllc@gmail.com. The podcast will get better, guys. We'll keep it rolling. We appreciate you listening tonight, and shoot us an email if there's anything specifically you want to hear about. But thanks a lot, JR. Good job. And thanks for listening.
See y'all later.